Hello and welcome back to the channel. Thank you for joining me in another of my wonderful interviews. Today we're going to have a look at colour. When you look out the window, what do you see? Is it a drab world out there? Have you dressed yourself in just greys and browns and blacks and things? Well, it is a vibrant world and all these colours are vibrating at different rates and they influence us. So I've just been told. My guest today is Alison from the Colour Ministry. She is a colour therapist and she joins me live in the studio. Hello, Alison.
Hello, very nice to see you, Richard.
It's lovely to see you. Thank you very much for coming in and telling us. Well, we've had a lovely conversation downstairs, ladies and gentlemen, before coming up here, and you brought some very nice pancakes, which were delicious. Thank you for that.
No problem.
We've had a conversation about colour, and you've said to me it's a huge subject. Because at first I thought, it's just going to be about what the colours you wear brighten you up, or the wallpaper that you have on, and that sort of thing. But clearly, it's a lot more than that. And also, you're going to tell us a little bit about the colours of 2024 and what that will mean for this year ahead, which is going to be absolutely fantastic. So, Alison, where's the best place to start with colour and colour therapy? How does colour influence our lives?
Okay. Yeah, I think that's a really good place to start, actually, Richard. And I think I just want to touch a little bit on the history, because I think something that always drew me to colour, as it has from the beginning of my childhood, was the fact that actually in the Egyptian pyramids, there are hieroglyphics of how they use colour to heal their population. So if there was a fire or something like that, they used to put the group of people that had lung problems into a room that had green jade in it.
Oh, right. Oh, okay.
So green is a colour that will actually open your lungs and take in more breath. So it's interesting that nature is actually naturally green, because it makes us go outside and go...
Yeah, no, that's so true, isn't it?
And we're oxygenating our body. But actually, even if we just look at the colour green, it brings oxygen into our body.
And you happen to be wearing green today.
Yes, a soft mint green, just to keep myself a bit cool and take breath.
Right. So the Egyptian... Now, it's interesting because when you see some of the Egyptian hieroglyphs, or you go into churches now and you see because of age, it's all faded, and we forget that those were very vibrant colours, particularly in the churches, I remember. And of course, they faded now so that you just see these sort of very faint reds and browns. But back then, they was full of colour and vibrancy.
Absolutely, and definitely in churches, we know that the stained glass windows were designed as a healing place. So people would have actually come in to church, and not just about the religion. It would have been to get the effect of the light through the stained glass windows, which did not always depict stories of Jesus or the narrative. They were different colours, and that would have an effect on the body. And then they would play the music in the shapes that the buildings were made in, that would also have a vibrational effect on its audience or the people that were there. So if we think of an organ, is actually healing our organs by the notes that are being played, along with the beautiful stained glass colours that are coming through the light.
Isn't that funny how we talked about wordplay on the show before, but that's interesting, an organ and the organs and all of that. Colour, you were telling me, I mean, maybe people know this, are all vibrating different colours. Tell me about how that works, or the fact that colours are vibrating, we only see part of that spectrum.
Yes, I mean, I think we have to go back to school a long time, and I haven't been to school for a long time like yourself.
No. But I'd rather not go back to the school I was at.
Same for me too. But if we go back to physics, and this is why I think we have to go back to the true science of light, colour, sound. We know that everything is a vibration, and sound is the lowest frequency, lowest vibration. And then heat it increases that vibration. And then we have the visible spectrum, which is running in terahertz. So sound is hertz. Now, I'm very technical, and I'll say it's a bit like bip, 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 bip. And colour and light is running at bip, 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 bip. So it's running a lot faster. And each colour is running at different terahertz frequencies.
Right.
And our eyes transpose that colour. They receive the frequency, and then they transpose it in the back of our brain. And then from that, we get to see the colours, and then we get to feel the colours in our body. But we don't know that because it's sort of been left out for a while, that actually there's 75% of that colour vibration is actually physically going into our body and having an effect on our body.
And I mean, I know I asked you this downstairs before we came. Is it essential that the eyes perceive the colour, or does the body somehow see the colour, or it's the vibration the colour makes is making the difference?
It's about the vibration that it receives that makes a difference. So people that are blind will still have a feeling of colour.
Right.
People that are colourblind will still have a feeling of colour. I think I gave you the example of the bull in the bull ring. When the matador is playing with the red cloth for the bull is colourblind, but he can feel the vibration of that colour and can feel the vibration of the audience because the colour of the cloth is red. And red is a colour which is the first colour we see as a baby.
Is it?
It's the first colour on the spectrum, and it is the one that allows blood to move around our body. It pumps our heart slightly faster. It increases our blood pressure very slightly, not OTT, but then saying that, a lot of red can push it to be quite anxious and anxiety, so a lot of energy. But if you think about that bull ring, all that energy, and the bull is in the middle, and then he charges forward, and it's actually a good just example of that he can't see the colour, but he can feel the vibration.
You mentioned red, and of course one of the things that red we see is in blood.
Yes.
And you know, blood is life, I suppose, because it's carrying the oxygen and the nutrients around the body that we need. I guess that's not undeliberate.
No, not undeliberate. And it's our perceivance of it being red.
Yes.
And also the fact that when we need this colour, as I say, it's the first one we see as a baby. And it's the one that we need each time for us to get up in the morning. We need that energy from red.
So when you say it's the first one we see in the as a baby, do you mean from inside the womb we see this sort of a bit of light coming through in a sort of pinky reddy? Is that what you mean?
Yeah, and actually when we're born, a little bit like kittens and dogs, we open our eyes straight away, but it is the first colour that is natural to us. I mean, if we think of the birthing process, it's actually quite traumatic.
Yes.
You know, we're from a warmish womb with lots of red out into a light of multi-colours.
Yes.
And so it's something that's a shock. So, but the red is the first that we've actually seen.
Gosh, okay. Now, downstairs you took my colour chart.
Yes.
And you're a therapist, so presumably you, acting as a therapist, will use colour for healing, for increasing better health. I don't know whether you diagnose things as well. Does that, and then you also said that we as people vibrate a specific colour which affects us in or understands who we are, I think you put it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that if we physicians, as they were in the past, I'm going to use the spelling again because we only have doctors now to do with admiralty, and of course our doctors in the 1920s, 30s, most of them were colour therapists and light therapists. So people like Rife and Steiner in the 20s, they were all physicians. They understood the physics of the planet. And now, of course, we have doctors, which are not physicians. They look after separate organs or different parts of the body. If we go back to the 1930s, they used colour and light to create treatments for the body, and they took it from all the ancients and used it with new technologies as they were then. So the Rife machine would have used violet as a colour to help heal certain things. And so the same happens with numbers. So if we go back to the Greek times, where the Greeks were the first to bring the numerics in, numerologists will look at our numbers to find out a little bit about who we are. And so in colour therapy, you can mix colour and numbers together. And that gives you a deeper understanding of where the person is coming from. We're all 75-80% water. We live by light. If we can live maybe 2 or 3 weeks without water or liquid, but actually without light, we are much shorter lifetimes.
Really?
So we have to have light.
We spend so much time indoors as a species now.
We do.
Which we never used to.
No, exactly. And that's why I think there is an issue with dis-ease of ourselves. For me, disease is dis-ease that has now come into the body. If we're out walking in the evening or we're out working in the fields, we're using our physical, we're under full spectrum light. We're using all the colours that has been provided by us and the rainbow.
Yeah.
So we vibrate at a frequency, and therefore our date of birth gives us information about what colours we can actually resonate. And so that's what I was doing with you, was looking at your date of birth and what colours you are and how that works. So different people have different colours. I do look at a few politicians every now and again.
Oh, right.
And so of their different colours, along with lots of other people. And that is a great place to start to know how your body can be affected by the colour as well.
So just as a matter of interest then on that, I mean, we had Boris Johnson as the Prime Minister whilst we went through the pandemic at the worst possible time. And we now have Rishi Sunak, of course, mopping up the after effects and continuing the safe and effective narrative. Did you do Boris's by any chance?
Oh, yes.
Do you know what colour he is?
Yeah, well, interestingly, Boris is a gold, actually, a number 9. So he actually has a lofty view of life. We can't say which side he's journeyed on that lofty view, but actually he has that lofty view. And I think the buffoon element of him hides a highly intelligent person in that gold. And he also has quite a lot of orange, so he doesn't necessarily want to follow rules either, because orange is all about being free and unconventional and not precise about everything.
So I mean, that's interesting, because some people may interpret that he was uncomfortable in pushing the agenda that clearly was being pushed, that he had to do.
Yeah.
And maybe took himself out a bit of it by going to hospital, who knows, and on various things, and prevaricating as he often did. What about Rishi Sunak?
Oh yeah, well, I think that's interesting. I think with Boris, I personally saw somebody struggling with what he could be as light. He was a fish out of water, because his gold is the overseer to do the right thing. Rishi, lots of magenta, so lots of number 8. He's trying to transform. He's trying to negotiate. So he has a lot of negotiating power, but he hasn't got it. He's just the front man of that negotiating power. It's not in his heart, if that sounds.
No.
So that colour can be very powerful when it's heart driven, but when it's not heart driven and it's driven maybe by money or power, then it negotiates or doesn't negotiate with the power that it could do for the good.
I mean, it's very interesting. I mean, I didn't really particularly want to get onto this sphere, but we do see with Rishi Sunak and his wife, I mean, they've got more money than God put together, as it were. What drives somebody to go on a Prime Minister's wage when he clearly doesn't seem to have that passion? And I do feel that he's a little bit lent on to continue a certain narrative. And as he's sort of we saw that in the House of Commons the other day when Andrew Bridgen asked him whether the medical interventions were actually safe and effective, and was questioning it, and he said they were safe, and clearly they're not, because there's enough evidence everywhere to suggest that you couldn't possibly say they were safe, because they're not safe for everyone. If one person has a bad effect, they can't be safe. They might be nearly safe, but they can't be safe. And so it does sound like he's just carrying out orders, as you say.
Yeah, I think very much so.
And that's the magenta.
That's the magenta. And I mean, even if you just took the States and looked at Biden, he's treble orange.
Treble orange.
So the fact that he falls over and he's not able to get his words, he's so out of balance, whoever he may be.
Yes.
But in the role that he's playing, he's so out of balance in that orange. It's a little bit like a joke.
Mm.
And it actually fits with what's going on there.
So what about Trump?
Okay, so really interesting with Trump, because Trump is a green. Right. So he comes from his heart.
Oh, interesting.
So, and green also rules money, because actually the energy of money in the right hands is good. And the energy money in the wrong hands is not. So green is about abundance. It's about breath. It's about air. It's about what we breathe. It allows us to put our heart and soul into what we believe in. So I truly think that Trump feels that he's doing the right thing for the patriots, the people. Mm. So, but he's also very capable of making a lot of money.
Yes.
So anybody who's a green, Bill Gates is also a green.
Oh, is he?
But here's the other way. So it's about being able to use that abundance, but maybe not in the way that is the most comfortable way, but believing that maybe you're doing the good. Who knows? Yes. We're not close enough to them to know. But you know, green is about community. And I think very interesting that 2020, when COVID came about, or the pandemic came about, it was about green, and that was about lungs. And the whole of the respiratory area. And what I noticed more than anything else is Mother Earth went, I'm going to breathe with this. So when we were all locked in and locked down, Mother Earth started to clear her waters and bring out beautiful, a fantastic, I think the sun shone from the day we were locked down.
I know, that's so interesting,
all the way through.
Yeah.
And then we moved from 2020 of green into blue, and blue is the colour of truth and integrity. So it's about the throat area, it's about how we speak. There are quite a lot of politicians, and please don't boo me now, but Mr. Lord Cameron has quite a lot of blue within him. And what we have to remember with colour, it's both ends of the spectrum. It's truth and integrity, but at the other end, it's lies and deceit.
Ah, yes.
So there is always a shadow side to each of the colours. And then we went from blue, and then we went to indigo in 2022. And that's where we saw new laws, because indigo rules justice. Right. And the law, the lawful, it's the third eye. So it's the third eye part of the body, and it's about the justice and the fairness and things like that. Again, when it's in balance, it's used in a positive manner. When it's out of balance, it can be used against things. So we saw a lot of things passed as legislation in that year. And then we moved up then to violet last year. And all I can say, a year of chaos. I think for most people, very chaotic. It's the crown energy. It's all about reconnection to ourselves and to the source of all, whatever that may be.
Oh, that's interesting. Because, I mean, for some people, last year was a year of expecting something that never came. And I always had this feeling about last year being the year that, to misquote H.G. Wells and the War of the Worlds, is that we were being scrutinised like down the end of a microscope, but that they were drawing their plans against us. This wasn't the right year, and I feel this is the time we're going to execute those plans, but that the people may not acquiesce quite the way they want, and will be starting to scupper them.
Totally. And that's where we can see that happening. I think last year also, violet is reconnection. It's such a wonderful colour for it allows the right hand brain and the left hand brain to work together. So critical thinking comes into
yes.
thought.
So I agree there. So I think we were also drawing our plans together.
Absolutely.
It was very much as you say, critical thinking, and my journey in all of this was during last year, of course, in which I was meeting wonderful people like yourself and many, many others on health and sovereignty and money and contacting aliens, the whole thing. And I think many people were doing the same through lots of different videos and things they read, and understanding the great harm on all spectrums that had happened. And so, and we've seen communities joining together so that now I think we're in a stronger place.
Absolutely. And I'm really excited for this year. This is 2024. It's an 8 year. 8 is a power number. All numbers are powerful, but it's a power number that if you think about drawing an 8 through your body, the middle part goes through your heart and then over your head and then back through your heart and over your head.
Infinity number.
And infinity on its side. So it's actually infinity standing up. So it's as above, so below. So definitely alien comings, shall we say, or we might see things from outer space and things like that. See that we're bigger than we really think that we are, and we're maybe more universally aware. I'm not sure the flat earth or round will be sorted this year either, but we may see a little bit more around those sort of arguments. But it's the colour of transformation. It's 2 parts red, it's magenta, 2 parts red, 1 part blue. It's the time to move forward, the time to transmute ourselves. So I've called it metaphoric magenta this year, so that we step forward, and then the blue allows us to see the truth and integrity, the underlying part, the gentleness. So we're not out there just really pummeling and fighting. It's more that we're actually going to be heard. Things are transforming. For me, we create we look at the system, and we can use the system that exists as it downfalls.
Right.
But to create better world for where we're in.
Absolutely, yes. Now, see, these are the things that I've been thinking about, and we have all this technology, but it can be used against us, as we've seen. A lot of it is the snooping and the surveillance and the potential of chips and digital IDs, or we can use it. We can retune the frequency of the radiation from things like 5G and what have you to our advantage. So that it's on a more healing frequency, presumably. Same with music, instead of whatever it is.
440.
440 to 443.
Yeah, 443 is perfect.
So we can use that technology. And the other thing that has now just slipped out of my mind, which is typical, is something that I can't remember. But now, what was that? That was to do with the fact that we... Oh, I can't remember. It's gone. I was teasing myself then to bring it back, but it was well, clearly it wasn't that important. So the people were going to wake up. Do you think this? Oh, yeah. My point was, what you're saying is very much what I've heard from astrologers, who are in tune with the planets and the constellations and things. Pam Gregory being one who's so this is the time. This year and next year are the most pivotal of the future.
They are, and I think when it first started and came about, I said 2024 would be the point. I mean, in the Indigo year, which was for 2021/2, the Queen, and all of those things. So that was. You could see that was about the old, the ancients changing.
Yes.
Now we're going to transform with the newer part. And this is what I love about magenta is it's lofty. So it's seeing it from a much bigger perspective.
Right.
And those people that want to make the change, they will be awakening to things that are going on. The frequency will be changing. I love David Hawkins' work, he put frequency to all sorts of things. And there's been information that the planet is running at about 220 hertz, which is courage.
Oh,
and I think
does that
that's
change? Does the
and the
planet
change,
change?
yeah.
Right. So we're courage.
So we go up and down all the time, but on the whole, the planet has been running at 220. 528 is happiness. So there are only a couple of tribes in the world that will run at 528 frequency who know nothing about anything that is going on
Right.
in the world around us, but existing in their world. And 528 for me is the hertz that is running for happiness. And where the planet is changing and the light that is coming, Pam Gregory talks a lot about photonic light that's coming onto the earth, is increasing that frequency. So our ability to actually be courageous, our ability to transform is going to have a lot of energy this year with the magenta around it.
Right.
And then next year is gold, 2025. And gold is 9 is completion. So it's not the completion that everything will be finished.
No.
It will be just a completion of a transformational cycle. And then 2026, we go into new beginnings and we start maybe a very different world.
Wow.
To where we are now, but it's going to take a couple of years while we put it together.
Yes.
But the magenta that is here, if anybody out there wants to look at their colour, they can go to my website at thecolourministry.co.uk, and in there is a little app that says put your date of birth in and it'll tell you your colour. So if you're a magenta this year, it's really exciting because you're in your own energy and in your element of transformation. Although you may be running around trying to do everything and not taking enough time to just don't burn out, but definitely very transformational for all of us.
So, so that's looking at the sort of like the political and the world stage. What about personally for individuals? Because you mentioned about putting in your date of birth, and that's how you get the number that is your base point, is it?
Yeah, it's your vibrational frequency.
Right.
So it's in numerology they call it your life path. But it's for me, it's what you're vibrating at on a day-to-day. We have to come from a belief in alternative or colour therapy, especially in light therapy, that we've been here lots of times before and we are all energy. So does
something just fell down from somewhere in the studio there?
Yes,
I'm not quite
that
sure
was, yeah.
Or part of the set has just collapsed. But we will persevere no matter what. So the question I was going to ask there is, does it change in your different lives? That if you come back, if you're a number 1, would you potentially be a number 2? And are you working up a scale, or does that not?
I think you're not working up a scale. I think collectively we come back and do different things, and we choose to be different colours of the rainbow. And experience different things. So there's no colour that's better than any other. There are just different traits within those colours. And for me, spending a lot of time in the corporate world and then now dealing with health and well-being, I do a lot with the mind, and I think you have to just be that selection of different colours. So you're coming with different traits, different experiences. So it's a little bit where you would think, oh, I'm going to learn this, or I'm coming, you know, and that's the colour you're coming back with. And the colour is the language of those traits.
Right.
So red is fast, passionate, driven. Yes. Blue is sensitive and gentle. Green is, as we say, all heart, quite neutral, wants balance. And then your day, month and year also affect your journey. So you can really start to see who you really are. I mean, it completely changed my life when I learnt about it and studied it. And it's my business has come about by it naturally doing it. So it's not like it was fixed and I learnt it. It builds all the time. And the more I do it, and the more I do my sovereignty, the more I'm aware of things, the more I can see the colour in everything.
There's two questions now that come to mind. You just said that you see the colour. Is that to do with seeing the aura on people? And if your base number is whichever colour it is that part of the aura, or is that a different thing altogether?
Can be. Some people will project where they're at without even seeing it. For me, it's more the traits of that colour. So, and especially in children, because colour for children is just so profound for them all. It's how they learn and how we all learn.
So if you know, that's very interesting. So if you know the colour trait of your child, you can presumably bring them up without, pushing them in the wrong direction. You're able to enhance their life by guiding them through things, knowing that if they're a red colour, they're charging ahead, that's what they should be doing. You can develop them, instead of, what I'm trying to say is, you don't put a square peg in a round hole.
I think the thing is that it's not to all be taken literally, but it is a really good tool, and we do a lot of work with kids that have autism, that ADHD, especially now. As it's such a big issue.
That very much, and we've seen autism has gone up the scale like nobody's business, and some people might say it's because they've had certain medical interventions as children, but I couldn't possibly say. But he says, dancing around the algorithm, of course. What can you do then for children who've perhaps been damaged mentally with heavy metals and things like that might cause those sort of problems with colour?
Well, I think with colour especially, if for example, a child has lots of red energy and they have that, but I wouldn't be putting them in a bedroom with Spider-Man in.
Right.
Because the red just stimulates.
Oh, I see.
So you create environments around the children that are actually going to balance. Steiner was the artist at this in the 1920s. All of his schools are designed with colour in mind to allow the children to develop at a non-competitive environment. And so if you've got a child that's not safe and running all the way around, and you have a red settee and you have red curtains, it's a stimulant. So you're looking for the counter of that. You're looking for the greens. Which is all about balance. You're looking for the blues to cool things down. If you can't sleep at night, I would say even for adults, and I know sleeping is such a big problem for people, I use the real royal blue, the indigo, the deep. It's like sleeping under a midnight sky with the stars, but in a very protective environment.
And so, would you use colours? On the colour wheel, you've got opposite colours and things like that. So you might have, I don't know, purple over here, and then the other one that's opposite to that, which I do.
Yellow.
Yellow.
Yep.
And would you use the opposite colour, like in a calming down situation?
Absolutely. And I mean, you've picked two colours that are really interesting because you've got both those colours in your chart. The violet, which is all about right-hand brain thinking and ideas and inspiration, and the yellow, which is all about the detail and the plan.
Right.
And so it's balancing out the brain at those two elements. So, yeah, totally. This year, guys, we need green. See, and if you go walk down by the sea, it's not really blue, it's green, it's got lots of fauna in it. So, and green opens our heart and relaxes us and calms our blood pressure and our nerves.
So actually it's quite handy then being by the sea. You can go down and take in that colour.
Yeah, and in nature, just out in nature.
Yes.
It's going for a walk. We all love a walk. The oxygen, we say it relaxes us because the green is reducing our blood pressure. And also the oxygen and oxygenating our blood. So
if you had a let's say an authority or a policy that was trying to keep you within a small community and not get you into the countryside, that might be detrimental to human existence.
Oh, I do think it may well be. And I do think what's interesting is that the just a little fact of the police force, and if we go back before the 1940s, our police force wore navy blue.
Right.
Our barristers were in navy blue, so it was the colour of the law.
And justice.
And justice and fairness.
Oh, right.
So it's all about fairness and justice,
And
that
now they're
royal
in
blue,
black.
and now they're in black. And black, as what we've already said, is not a colour.
So
it is the absence of light.
And so, right. So is that, I mean, if that's the absence of light, is it sucking in energy?
It's sucking in energy, but also it's protecting. You become, clockwork orange, I think, is a good way of saying you become a number.
Right.
So when you're looking in the courtroom, you're not seeing the faces.
Yes.
In the corporations, I worked for IBM as my first job. I had to wear a royal blue suit, a trouser suit or skirt suit, and everybody saw us as an authority on IT.
Right.
The minute it all went to black, you just become a number.
Oh, I see.
Because it's black and white. So the whole of, if we think about the city,
yes,
as the city stood before, you were in black suits, white shirts. I worked for a bank for a while, and should I say that really? But I did, and the Swiss bank has that.
No, but I think it's always good, and there's something that people sort of misjudge this. I think if people have worked in the system and have come out, they know those policies and those techniques that were being used, and can expose them and express them just as you have.
Yeah, and I think the royal blue has been moved out. Matron in a hospital, I always think of Hattie Jakes of all people.
Yes.
But in that wonderful royal blue outfit, and you knew Matron. She was on the floor. She was organising everything. She knew everything. And you went to Matron to sort your problems, and now it's not there.
So these colours, do you think that's deliberate?
I do.
Yeah.
I do. I think the whole branding in food stores, in supermarkets. I've worked doing branding for people, and they put all the shelving up at certain points to line with the stomach, to line with the throat. So, and then they put the foods with different colours so that you will buy certain brands. They're looking at the influence. Colour has such an enormous influence, and it's so subliminal, and it's been moved down to what we wear for the ladies more so even than the men, because the men don't have the same choice as ladies do with colour. And what car we're buying, in what colour.
Yes, that's interesting, because some years you see certain numbers, more cars like silver cars and black cars, and then you'll see perhaps those a mustard coloured car, and it will stick out like a sore thumb, or a bright red car, but they're all very bland colours, aren't they?
They are, and I personally believe that all of that is all part of, and for me, they wanted to take the royal, but take out the violet, because if we take violet away, then our right hand brain is not connecting to anything, is not doing the bigger picture thinking.
So tell now, the lovely Julia classically wears purple, a lot of purple and turquoise. So that's sort of close to magenta, I suppose.
Yes, it is straight up, and it's the crown elegy, and it's the creativity, it's the play. The yellow is the details. So we could even look at the pharmaceutical industry and know that they had to change Viagra from blue to a red.
Oh, is it red?
Well, they're different colours. Some are blue, some are red, depending on who you were by. But they would actually think about the colour.
Gosh.
About what effect it would have. So a lot of our yellow tablets, we only have to look at them to know that it actually affects our digestion.
Oh yes, so ibuprofen I think comes as a yellow, doesn't it?
Yeah, so yellow and red in their little capsules. So the red is the speed that it's going to work, and the yellow is going to affect that part of the gut, because yellow is linked totally to the gut. And just to say, really, in colour therapy, what we do is we take the technology of colour, the physics, and we've mixed it with the Ayurvedic and Indian and Chinese ancient tools of healing.
Right.
So the two are combined. So colour was used a lot in those traditions and is used a lot.
So herbs and things like that, and the tinctures that people, although tinctures come in all sorts of deep, dark, nasty sort of colour, but the colours that have gone into that.
Yes, exactly. And they would have all been glass bottles that would have been completely see-through before.
Oh, I remember going into the old chemists in the old days, and they had these great big, as you say, coloured liquids, and it all looked very magical. If you go into a chemist now, it's all very bland.
It's exactly
and sterile,
and no alchemy, and we need the alchemy, and that's the gold. Yes. So 2025 is the alchemy, the bringing together of everything. But yeah, totally. And the impact of power of colour is huge. There is a lot of research out there, but it has never been brought forward for an inevitable reason, that it can actually heal. I have worked with lots of people that have come off antidepressants. Mainly, I work with people with depression, anxiety, so more of the emotional needs.
Right.
But colour has a physical impact as well. So red light therapy will use a red light to help heal wounds much quicker.
You did bring
I've got a little lamp here.
Yes, I need to plug it in somewhere, don't I?
I've plugged it in for you.
Oh, yeah, you've plugged it in. Well done.
So a little lamp like this one. That has, and if I just switch it on, you'll see that it has the orange lamp, and then if I put it up to there,
look at that,
it will be the orange, and over time, once you start to feel that, you can start to feel those vibrations of the colours.
So I have heard of red light therapy.
Yes.
But I didn't realise that different colours did different things.
Very much so. Green is a fantastic pain reliever.
You've got lots of colours there on.
Yeah, I have. So with little glasses, you can sit.
Oh, I see.
And change the lenses, and sit and use the different colour glasses for different things. So if you suffer from migraine, for example, you might choose to use the violet to rebalance the side of the brain. By using glasses. These are all German made and in Switzerland made. Nearly all the scientists working on them are German, as they were in the 1930s.
Well, it's funny you say that, because it seems that in the 30s there was the cutting edge of new technology that suddenly all stopped.
Yes.
And we had a whole new type of technology which we're still working with, which seems to be more detrimental than useful. So that's fascinating. So I've heard people sitting in front of their computers, they get headaches or they find their eyes go dizzy and what have you. So there's colours that.
Yes. So very good. These particular ones are made to take out the blue from the screen.
Right.
Because your screen is RGB, red, green, and blue, and you're mixing that in your eyes, but actually it means you've got none of the other colours.
Oh, I see.
So you're only receiving a signal of 3 colours together, and that is hard work on our brain.
Yes.
We need the whole
spectrum.
Full spectrum.
Well, I definitely need to do that, because I find that I've been doing so much of this in the last 14 months that I do feel my eyes are not as good as they were. Well, I say eyes, I've only got the one eye, of course. And so I need to look after it. So, and that's why I sort of keep saying to people, please don't send me too many emails, because when I've been in the studio with LED lights and screens and all of that, and then you can suddenly see there's 50 emails that need answering. It's jolly hard work, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, I think most definitely, and definitely from people in office based, and of course, artificial light also does not have the full spectrum, and of course they change from incandescent lighting because of energy into LEDs to save energy. But actually, if you sat with an incandescent light bulb at the end of the day, it's so much better for your eyes, because it's a bit like sitting in front of the fire.
Well, I was going to say candlelight.
Yeah,
candlelight
absolutely.
And firelight. We, the lovely Julia and I, who's actually just sneaked in. Hello, Julia. There we are. Look, she's hand. You can come in. Nod at everybody.
Hello. Hello. Nice to see you, Julia.
We sit. We turn off the main lights. We often turn off the electricity earlier if we know we don't need to access phones and things, and we'll sit in front of the fire, real fire, in the wood burning stove, and have candlelight. And it's amazing how little light you actually need, because in the evenings when it's dark, especially in the winter, these bright lights illuminating every corner.
Yep.
And actually, we found the eyes get used to that minimal light, because that's what people would have done for millennium, for eons, wouldn't they?
Absolutely. And we know that melatonin works between the light and the dark. And in our bodies, the melatonin, we would have got out in the light, worked, come back in the dark and balanced our melatonin. Now, because we're under artificial light, our cases of cancer are high. And very much in night workers and people doing night shift, much more than in the people in the day shift. For me, my ritual in the morning is, even if it's grey out there,
which it often is, thanks to a certain sort of spraying of the skies.
Exactly. So you get your moment in before there's a few little trails around, and just open up to the. We only need a small amount of light, of pure light. We don't need to lie in it for hours on end. That's the problem with suntan and sunbathing.
Yes.
It's not the fact that we shouldn't sunbathe, but no animal goes and lies out in the 12 o'clock sun in the middle of Spain or on a beach in Spain to burn.
Or to put sunblock on.
Or to put sunblock on and put those chemicals within which interact with the light and cause a problem within the skin. But if you had a hat on and you walked around naked for 20 minutes in the morning outside, you would actually receive enough to keep you healthy for that day and the next week.
So we now know what to Alison does first thing in the morning with a hat.
Don't come near Worthing. But that's it's literally allowing that light to colour. But I mean, our biggest organ on our body is our skin.
Yes, of
and
course.
So the colour will affect everything that we wear and put on our skin. So, for example, in Eastern Europe, these bioption lights are available in all the hospitals to heal wounds.
Oh, right.
And if you're in Slovakia or places like that, and I deal with a lot of clients that come from there, they have these lights to cure their headaches. They don't take any tablets. I don't take any tablets, but I've found my way.
Yes.
They use the light for everything. They use it for strains, for pulls, for tears, for bruising, and then you can use the colours to help with the emotional element of it as well.
We're going to have to unfortunately wrap this up, but you have a website and you are a therapist, so people can come and see you. Do you do your therapy over Zoom and things like that?
Therapy I mainly do. I've got a therapy unit, but I do lots of readings on Zoom. I speak to people all around the world, and I teach therapists as well about colour. So people that are really interested in adding colour into their already, if they're Reiki or they're just interested, I do those courses. And the same with the sovereignty. I love the part of bringing the colour in to actually start working with your sovereignty and finding out who you truly are.
Well, what's been fascinating for me is I wasn't quite sure what to expect when I was first introduced to the idea of having you on the show and with colour therapy. But clearly we've only touched the tip of the iceberg, of course, is that colour is something that we take for granted. Like so many things, air, water, landscape, we take for granted that it'll always be there or that it's not really doing anything. And you've helped me understand that colour is absolutely critical, and the vibration that it's doing and how it affects us. And also having you doing my reading was absolutely fascinating, and I would say spot on, unfortunately. Not unfortunately, but
no.
It is whom I am. And my role, I suppose, where we are at this time. So that has been really interesting. And so I would urge people to find out more, contact you, or look at your web site and find out more about it, or read about colour therapy, because the lights, everything is about light at this time, and if colour is making a big difference, then that's obviously important.
And we'd love to have it making more, because
Yes.
it did they had the answers in the 1930s. We just got to bring it back again.
Yes, yeah. As I forget who it was who said the last 100 years has just been a bit of a blot on the landscape. We've made such a mistake that it's kind of the forgotten. We need to forget about these 100 years and pick up from all that technology that was just on the cusp in the 30s.
Absolutely.
And then was interrupted.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, Alison, it's been an absolute joy to talk to you, and thank you so much for coming in. I do hope people will check out your webpage and find out more about colour. But in the meantime, thank you so much for watching. I'll be back with more monologues and more wonderful guests, of course. But until then, from Alison and I, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Richard, for having me.
It's been really interesting.
Thank you.
Till next time, from Alison and I, look after yourselves. Goodbye.